I saw the movie in Cannes, and what's really interesting, is, I mean, it's about anarchy in a certain way, but it's about anarchy of the soul, specifically of these two characters. Can you talk about sort of that internal life of the two of them and how that becomes external from both of your perspectives?
Well, funnily enough, if you talk to David Michaud, who wrote this film, the world has become anarchic, and the environment is bleak, and it's just about every man for himself and survival. And clearly, in the beginning of the story, where I've had my car stolen and I'm trying to get it back, and I know Rob's connected to that somehow, so I kidnap him in order to get back what I'm after. What David talks about, even in amongst this very bleak kind of world, is still this desire as human beings to kind of reach out and connect on some sort of intimate level, So if you talk to David about it, he would say that it's actually, there's some elements of hope and love in the story, even though it's probably hard for people to see this as any kind of love story as such.
I definitely think my character's going through a kind of sort of messy internal struggle. I think he's been regarded as someone who's like mentally handicapped his whole life, and I don't actually think he is. And I think even though my relationship with Guy's character is kind of a brutal and quite manipulative relationship, it's the first time he's been regarded as an individual person, an autonomous person. And so it's kind of, there's definitely something bubbling up inside him.
Now, can you guys talk about, obviously, physically, I mean, the brutality of the heat and everything like that, but, physically embodying the character, because you really have to you see them from the inside out in that way, and they do care about certain things. Obviously, Rob with the brother, and obviously with the twist with you, Guy, towards the end. Could you talk about that having the physicality reflect the emotionality of a character?
Well, it's interesting. It was a bit of a struggle for me in the first place to actually understand the character and see who this guy was, because by the time we find him in the film, he is sort of stripped of, morality and his ethics and really just humanity. He feels the world's given up on itself and has given up on him, and so he's kind of given up on the world. And it's a fairly strange place that he's at when the film actually begins. And in understanding that and talking with David about that, I don't know, he talked about this idea that these are sort of creatures now. They're not just people anymore, that they're not human beings that as we know them to be and that we sort of take for granted, that they've become the animals that, sort of lay dormant in us deep down there somewhere, So I suppose on some level, that comes out in the playing of particularly for me, I can't speak for Rob obviously, but in the playing of the character, that physicality kind of comes out through that understanding.
Definitely an element of kind of, there are a couple of just stray dogs walking around.
And you've been shot as well, so you've got that injury to carry.
And also, I think there was something in the script, the way that my character's dialogue was written, it was so kind of jerkily written. I think David didn't use commas in my lines, and so you're kind of stopping and starting, and I just thought it was fun delivering it, and it made your body, your voice made your body kind of jerk around, and then all the other stuff kind of came from that.
There's a sort of Western an aspect of morality, but as you said, Guy, things that there is hope, there is what these people are striving for. You can see, Guy, with you, like, the emotion's about to break the surface, and then with Rob, you see him like break down at a certain point. Can you talk about sort of that Western motif and the notion of morality versus amorality in an unsure world?
It's tricky for me to get my head around the Western. I haven't seen enough Westerns in my life to really understand the genre, to be honest. I guess the lone character that's out there, sort of carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders and trying to carve some sort of path through this barren landscape. I suppose that's something that is fairly common in Westerns. I guess for us, when we were making the movie, it was really just about working from the inside out and really just, working on these characters and developing the really sort of sparse relationship that that we see throughout the film. So my focus was more on that, to be honest, than on the Western, genre or motif.
I mean, I think anyone they're just Guy's different, but Guy's character is different, but me and my character and Scoot McNairy plays my brother. I mean, I guess if you're just migrant seasonal laborers, basically what they are, there's inevitably this kind of cowboy kind of existence where you're just roaming around trying to find work. You're completely on your own. You can't
nomadic, really. Aren't
yeah, you can't expect anything from anybody. I think the relationship between me and Guy's characters, it's a kind of mixture between. I think I've been adopted, and he thinks he's kidnapped me. Both for essentially the same purpose, is to get back to my brother. Because he wants his car back. But yeah, they're basically the opposite people. They're just the odd couple stuck in a car together for a few days.
And they're almost like, two dogs, a young puppy dog and a kind of a grizzled, old, cynical dog that's just using this young pup for its own purpose. But that animalistic, that very organic connection that living creatures find is something that I think is really evident in the story, on a very sort of subtle kind of level, but it's really evident in the story.